Hi, and welcome to Brain to Page. This week we're going to be having a look at that age-old writing maxim, write what you know. Chances are if you've done any kind of creative writing, you will have heard that at some point. But what does it actually mean? Some people sometimes think, oh, does that mean that I can only write about things that I've done, things that I've sort of worked as, places that I've been? And kind of, but I do think that there are 5 things in particular that you can have a go at, which mean you're writing what you know without necessarily falling into the trap of literally writing what you know. So some writers will turn around and say, but I don't do anything interesting. Nothing interesting ever happens to me. Does that mean I can't write what I know? But it doesn't mean that you have to literally write what you know. You can take other things that you've done and turn them into fiction. So for example, you might work in admin, but it doesn't mean that you have to set all your jobs in admin. But you'll have had a first day in a new job. You may have moved house to a completely different city and then had to get to know it. Obviously everyone remembers their first day at school. So these are all experiences that you know that other people can relate to because it's things that they've gone through as well. Now, one caveat, if you do want to write what you know, please bear in mind that sometimes you have to camouflage the people that you know because you don't want to risk turning them into characters and then be too realistic. But I will cover that in a future video. So, how can you write what you know? First off, put everyday people into unusual situations. So you may do like I do and people watch and invent backstories for computers. And that's fair enough. But can you make them more unusual? So rather than just simply inventing a backstory for a character, can you then change the setting? So could you pretend that instead of it being the London Underground, for example, could it be a Victorian omnibus? If you see somebody interesting sitting in a park in 2016, could it actually be 1914? Are they waiting for news about a loved one who's gone to the front? You know what I mean? So you can sort of play with the settings a little bit. Secondly, you can use yourself as your protagonist. Please don't do the Mary Sue character where you don't have any flaws. Bella from Twilight's a good example. What you can do is use character flaws that you don't really like to admit to people, and use those as part of your character. So you then think, well, how would the character relate to this situation? And it's, well, how would you relate to this situation? So that can be a way around it. You can use a hobby, number 3. It may be that you have got a boring job, but you might have some really interesting hobbies. Can you bring those into your stories at all? Or it may be that that's something that a character takes on. So, you might work as a mechanic, but you're really into beekeeping. So can your high-flying legal exec that you have as a main character, might they have an interesting hobby like that? So look to your own life and see what it is that you do. Can you add those to things that your characters do? Can you make it part of a scene? Can you make it part of the main plot? It's up to you, but just have a look at your hobbies rather than just sticking with your job. And last of all, location. I'm a big fan of world building, and I often read books not so much for the characters but for the worlds that they're set in. So somebody like China Mieville, for example, I mean his locations completely blow my mind. So you've got 2 options here. You can use an area that you know really, really well, and you can either change the names and make it a lot more inventive. So you might want to say, right, okay, I've got this little fishing village in Cornwall, now I'm going to make it something completely different. Maybe you're going to change the country, maybe you want to go down a fantasy setting. It's entirely up to you. So you can change the names, change where it's even set, like Susan Hill did in The Woman in Black, or you can keep the location as it is, which then has the benefit of generating local interest in the place. And if your story does well enough, then it may be that people want to go and visit the location based on what you've said. So I hope that's been helpful in helping you to work out how to write what you know. You've got 5 things to have a look at there. I'll put the link to the fuller blog post below. If you haven't subscribed already, if you want to consider doing so, that would be cool, and then you'll get notified of any future videos that I put up. But otherwise, I hope you have a really fantastic week, and I'll see you next week to talk about ways that you can use research. So I'll see you then.